Hi, I'm Natalie.
I'm Candice,
And I'm Danny.
and we are following Soulspiration. In today's episode, we talked about the power of being in the present moment and what that looks like, and how we can incorporate that in our daily lives to be more present and be more intentional with our thoughts and our actions.
Hi, ladies. How's everybody doing today?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Good. I'm so happy to be here. Natalie, do you have a card for us this morning?
I do. It is called Savoring the Positive. And it says, I slow down and savor the positive experiences in my life. I purposely dwell on cherished events and people around me. Savoring the positive allows me to enjoy the moment and accept the delicious gifts that are in my life right now. Prolonging my attention on feelings and sensations connected to heartfelt memories, acts of kindness, and loving encounters, no matter how big or small, strengthens my capacity to embed them within my psyche. Over time, the practice of savoring the positive builds my emotional resilience, providing a foundation of strength that will support me during stressful times.
I love that so much. That's awesome.
Oh, that is great. And as usual, fits in perfectly with what we're talking about today.
Which is?
Well, today I thought that we might talk about the power of being in the present moment and what that looks like and how we can incorporate that in, our daily life to be more present and intentional. So in preparing for this episode, since we have decided to kind of change the structure of the show and be more intentional with our topics, well, let me start at the beginning. It was probably a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. It doesn't matter. In the last little while, I was reading this book and I read this passage and I had this revelation in the moment of really feeling and understanding at a very deep level what that meant. I've read Eckhart Tolle's books. I've listened to numerous spiritual gurus or mentors or whatever about how important it is to be present and how important it is to embrace the here and now. And I got it intellectually, but it was more of a physical presence. So I'm going to be present right now, sitting looking at the trees. I'm going to be present right now doing the dishes, and I'm going to just be here now and not get lost in my thoughts. And so I got it at that level, but I didn't really get it at an emotional level. And so I read this passage in this book and it just all made sense. It all made sense in the way that I could see how each choice was what paved the way for our future. So, every choice that you make right now in this moment is the brick being laid for your tomorrow, for your 5 years from now, for your, when you're 90, every brick you lay paves your future. And it really hit me in a profound way that we tend to set goals and we have dreams and we have aspirations and they're all focused in the future. And I think, I know for myself anyway, there's a habit of, well, I'll do that tomorrow. Well, I'll do that tomorrow. So then tomorrow becomes the future. So the choices that I made today, that I was going to sit and watch TV instead of doing the thing that's going to take me to the future self that I want to be. Now the future's come and I'm still watching TV, so, so in preparation for today, I went looking in this book to find the specific passage that had this huge revelation for me. And I guess the part where it was talking about being present, and there was nothing there. I mean, it wasn't nothing, but it was be present, spirit is only available in the present moment because all there is now. And it was just like the same thing that I've read a million times before. And I was almost at a loss, because in preparing for this, I knew that passage was going to be revolutionary for everybody. Like, everybody was going to get so much from this paragraph in this book. And I got there, and it felt like there was nothing there. So I don't even have that to share. But the power in that for me, which is kind of like taking us off topic a little bit, but the power in that for me was the power of spirit, and like being spirit leading and giving those inspired thoughts and inspired teachings, maybe, like through something. I'm not saying this right, but it was like I learned this huge lesson in that moment from something that wasn't even really there. Like, it was just spirit was like, light bulb. And I don't even know right now how I got from point A, which was reading that paragraph, to feeling the power of the present moment at such a deep level. Like, no idea how I got from A to B, but I got to B. And now I need to find a way to kind of like break that down so that it can be helpful for you, for other people. Mm-hmm. Do you guys have any thoughts on that so far?
I think it's like the present is so important, because it's like when you're not in that place, you're in the anticipation of the future, which will involve worry or excitement, or like, you know, all the things that you're feeling about the things that are coming up for you, or even fear for what's coming up for you. And the same in terms of the past. So if you're not actually where you are now, you're thinking about things you should have done, things you could have done. And I think most of those, like the majority of feelings that can come from that, generally are negative, except for potentially excitement for the future or gratitude for the past, which, you know, if you have that, awesome. But so often the brain's actually not focusing on those things unless you're being intentional with your thought. So by just going present, then you remove all of the potential negative energies that you're attracting by thinking about future and past. So, I mean, I don't know how you got there. I don't know how you got from A to B from the passage, but yeah, I think it's just a matter of being really intentional, which is exactly what you said. So being intentional with your thought, with your time. And I think maybe in that moment you were just much more present, you know, so you were just taking that passage and thinking about incorporating that like in the now, rather than be like, oh yeah, that's true, in the future I will be I will be more present. But instead you were just in that moment potentially. Yeah. Why are we laughing?
That's just like us in transformation so often, you know, it's like note to self, for tomorrow, for whenever, be more present.
And it's so true. I'll add that to my to-do list.
Must try harder. Yeah.
I love it. So what was coming up for me, Candace, when you were talking, is also the fact that when you got it on such a deep level, and you're talking about really how to kind of help people from A to B, and that's where the power is, but really seeing you revel in the power of what your understanding was in the moment. That's how we get the expansion and the transformation from it too, because just listening to you talk about it gave me a renewed love of the present moment and awareness of the present moment. And if we tie it back to the card in the beginning, right, it's savoring the positive. Like, and so when you say it, and then I get to savor it again, and I get to think about it in a new way again. And I love the idea of the, you know, basically bricklaying for the future. Like what you're doing right now is what you're thinking about right now, what you're doing right now, where your energy is right now is what you're projecting out and calling back in. So it just it works so beautifully on so many levels.
For
I
sure.
think the other thing you said before, Candice, was how the now and the present moment is like all you can guarantee. That's the only thing you actually have. Like the past is gone, the future you haven't got yet. So like that's the only thing you have. And I loved how you put that, because that just makes me want to be so intentional with how I spend my now.
Right. Right. I don't know if I actually said that today. I think that might have been a past conversation. Um, but yes, that is precisely it. And there was a book that I was reading that was specifically about healing with spirit, healing chronic illness and things like that. And she said that spirit only exists in this moment. And for me, that was such a strong statement, because I know for myself anyway, I tend to think about life, about time as like this big, I don't know, sphere where there's like past over here and there's future over here and the present is somewhere, like it's this big thing. And when I read that, I was like, it's just not how it is. Spirit is only right here. We are only right here. Like the rest of that is a complete illusion. And what you had said, Natalie, about the past and the future and how that all ties in. I mean, there's this idea that the past and the future are, I don't know, like solid. I don't know of a better way to say it, but they are something. They have power, they have energy, when in reality they don't even exist. Like there's just simply thoughts in our mind. And to me, that was also a revelation. Like I have given so much of my power throughout my life to past experiences and to future dreams and aspirations and hopes that I haven't, for most of my life, even existed in the present moment. It's been all focused on the past, or all focused on the future, all focused on the thoughts. And so earlier I was thinking about that in the terms of how that shows up in life. And it's like a baby's born into this world and all they know is the present moment. All they know is their current needs. It's hunger. It's they need sleep. They need comfort. They need love. Those basic needs that we all have, that most of us are completely tuned out from, because we are so wrapped up in what happened before and what's going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is part of maybe the block or the wall between us being present and not, or being tuned into. I think I said that wrong. So I think that the block to being tuned into who we are and what we need in this moment lies in the fact that we are so attached to the past and the future.
Totally. I was, as you were talking before, I was thinking about like how we actually define ourselves by our past or our future. Like it's literally how we define who we are. We're this person who's got through this, this, and this, or a person who's going to do this, this, and this. And so rarely do we like define ourselves like in this, like this is me, like right now in this moment, whether that's doing the dishes or, whatever it is. It's always on to the next thing, rather than integrating. And even just that, like even in transformation, as soon as we've made a shift, we're like on to the next thing to work on. We're always like looking for the next thing to learn, the next thing to do, the next person to be, and not seeing the beauty in like the person that exists right now, flawed and all. If we even define it as flawed.
Right. Perfectly imperfect. I heard that somewhere and I love it. And I always carry it around with me and think of everybody that way, which is just kind of a beautiful way to think about it. And I think when it comes to like future and past, what what is coming up for me so much these days is how much and I think humans in general, but I'm noticing it with myself and with clients, what we do is we take the past, and not only are we carrying it with us, like all this baggage going on a trip, but we throw it out and we project it into our future. Mm-hmm. So that our past defines who we can be in the future. And like, it's this continuum of taking it all out and projecting it all onto the future. And really, and the way to get through that, and the way to stop doing that, and the way to realize that your past doesn't have to be your future, is the power of the present moment. Just like you were saying, that's like the key that unlocks, oh wait, I'm doing this out of habit. Oh wait, I don't really believe that old story to be true, or think I need to repeat it again. I'm just in a habit here. And I was going through the motions because I thought I was trying to get there, or because I was just in the habit of it, or whatever, instead of just being present and realizing that this moment has the possibility for anything I want to create in this moment.
I love that. Yeah. I love that.
Another thing I know we've talked about before, but that's related to the present moment, is the whole, when you're receiving guidance from spirit, that being for that moment, spirit isn't necessarily telling you anything predicting the future. Spirit is telling you what you need to hear right now that will bring about action from you in that moment that will allow you to follow the path that you're destined for, if you believe in destiny.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
For sure. And I mean, we've had that experience many times with just us, asking for guidance and then being shown a particular path to take, and it was good for that moment. And then, whether it's the next day or it's a week later, we're still clinging on to that past moment. Well, spirit said, well, so-and-so said, this was the choice I needed to make. And never even considering the fact that maybe you should check in again, because this is a new day and a new moment and things change.
Yeah, I also think that, so often we want spirit to just show us, okay, where am I going to be in 5 years? Just lay it out for me. I want the big picture. And spirit already automatically knows where we want to go, where we're destined to go, if that's part of it, right? Which I believe that it is. I believe destiny and free will work together. I don't really know how, but I know that they do somehow. But, if spirit just had that big picture and showed you yourself on the stage, yourself, whatever, your path to get there would automatically be different than what spirit knows you need, which is if you will just listen and do this thing right now, do this thing today, even if it doesn't make sense or whatever. And that's right, what we call like following those breadcrumbs, following Soulspiration, if you will, is in a moment. It's cleaning up your bedroom. Message. Can you tell I've heard that one before? I don't, hypothetically, declutter, clean up a little bit, is often like this thing. And so I'm even with spirit, like, what do I need to do? You need to, please help me, tell me. And they're like, we told you 3 days ago, clean up your space. But it's not often like what we want to hear or what we think is a logical connection from A to B, which is where we think we want to go. Often it's go to the art museum, or go, call that friend you haven't called, or clean up your room. But if we follow it, then it just brings us like this kind of satisfaction, and like this that just takes us to the next little breadcrumb, and it's so beautiful. And again, it's so related to the present moment. And just, if you'll just be here now, and like my favorite question, like for spirit, and I know you do this too, Candace, because I know you've talked about it, and I'm sure you do too, Natalie. It's like, spirit, what's mine to do now? What's mine to do? Not in 3 weeks, but today. Like, what's mine to do?
It's even though, as you were saying, Danny, you're like, where will I be in 5 years? Like, that's such a human thing to do, because that's just showing you how like caught up we are in the freaking future. Like, why does it matter why does it matter where we'll be in 5 years? What difference does it make to now? You know, so I think that just is, it totally epitomizes, because, you know, we all do that. We're all like, where will I be? And when will I do this? And like, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Like right now in this moment, it's irrelevant.
So it's like, there's an element to it that we aren't enough as we are in this moment. I'm not enough, so I need to be this. I'm not enough, so I need to do that. So I think part of being intentionally present is accepting yourself as you are in this moment, whether that is, you know, I mean, I don't even want to say flawed, because it's not. It's just where you are, and it's just what you're currently learning or what you're currently experiencing. And I think that for me, that's a really sticky point. Like, how do I get okay with myself when my life isn't what I want it to be?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't have that answer. It's something that I'm working on, especially with all of this stuff, right? Like realizing all of this, and that one of the keys to this is really being okay with who I am right now. It's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. Yeah.
We're always work in progress. And what you were saying before is too, it's that it really drives home that it's all journey. Like, where am I going to be in 5 years? And Natalie's like, it doesn't matter. It just like reinforces it's all journey, people. It's not all about the destination. It's like, if you don't enjoy the journey to get there, you're not going to enjoy it once you're there anyway, whatever there is. And
there is no there, is there? That's the point. Yeah, that's the whole point. There is no there. There's
right.
Journey and then death.
Right, which is then a whole new journey.
Yeah.
You had a pretty amazing channeled message about that, or vision, didn't you, Danny?
Did
about the journey to the statue?
Oh yeah, I did.
Did you want to share that?
I don't know if I can remember it. But it was about, okay, so I was picturing that view that I've only seen in the movies, and there's a mountaintop in like Rio where there's this big statue, huge statue of Jesus, just like looking down on the city, and there's always like a plane flying by. You have this aerial view of it. It's gorgeous, and it's so majestic. And Spirit was saying, like, you think you just want to be at the statue. Like you think you just want to arrive magically at the destination, just looking at the statue and being there. And Spirit was saying, if you could only be in the jungle and the forest as you walk up that mountain and see all the beauty and everything that has to work together to create this ecosystem and that you're a part of. So it was partly about unity and partly just about all the beauty and the joy. And they even showed me like something that is decomposing and becoming fuel and energy for the other creatures and other life, and it grows. And like, and they're saying, you know, you're complaining about walking up this mountain when life is just having miracle after miracle all around you, and you're just walking with your backpack complaining, and why am I not at the top yet? And it's like, well, you silly child, you're already in paradise. You're already sitting at the foot. And this moment is just as powerful as that. It's just the same thing as that. If you can look at it that way, if you can see it the way we see it, like seeing through the eyes of Spirit is another thing, right? Like in the present moment that maybe we can do. It might be hard to do for a whole life, but that's one of the things I've been asking lately is, how does Spirit see this, right? And it is always, you know, in the present moment from like really high up.
Always with love.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding me of that, because it's so funny. You just have these what seem like revelation, and then you forget. Like, that was so yesterday. Today is a new day. I'm striving and doing whatever, and You just forget all about the revelation that you thought changed your life. That just, changed that moment, and then you go back into your routine or whatever.
For sure. For sure. And that's something that another thing that's on my to-do list. Stop forgetting the revelations. Come back and revisit them. I do think, though, that when you have them, it brings about a new awareness. And you might go back to your old habits, and you might go back to like your old way of being and kind of forget about it. Mm-hmm. But I feel like most of the time there's something to come back and remind you, and you're like, oh yeah. And then you almost get it on a little bit deeper level. And then you probably let go of it a little, and then it comes back and you get it on a little bit deeper level.
I agree. I think it's never wasted, and I think it's all cumulative. And I think a lot of times it works in the background, even though we don't realize it's always working.
Right.
And if there's another thought on present moment that I find really powerful, and that Spirit has really been driving home lately, and it's this. And that is that we talk a lot about manifestation and what we're creating and things like that. And we have these goals of course, desires, things that we want. And we want these things. And if we're really evolved, what we really want is already kind of in terms of, I want to feel this way, I want to feel that way. And I know that's Natalie, right? Like so many of us, our wants and desires are these physical things or material a lot of times. Or a lot of people, it's feelings. That's okay. Either way, what we really want is whatever we want because we believe it will make us feel a certain way. And what Spirit's been showing me about the present moment, about the part of the power of the present moment, is that I can be, in the present moment, I can be at the foot of that statue in Brazil. In the present moment, I can take myself anywhere. In the present moment, I can close my eyes and talk to Spirit and say, I can feel the energy of worthiness come through, fulfill every cell in my body, and just sit and feel it. In any moment, any of these elated feelings that we think we want, we can go into ourselves and have it right now. And some people call that like instant manifestation. But it's so the power of the present moment, but it also, yes, it speeds up manifestation. Yes, we're sending out this vibe that is pre-paving what we really want instead of what we don't want. And it is all of those things. But I think that we get so caught up in what we call reality and what we're looking around seeing and the limitations and things that we think that brings with us, when really all we're seeing right now is stuff we've created in the past. And in this moment, we can literally create anything we want. Anything, and just feel it and experience it right now. And we can't always do that if we're in a really, if we're in a place that's really struggling or really hard or heavy. But in the morning, coming off of meditation, you can get into those, and you can play around with different ways that help you be in that feeling place, and just even practicing it a couple of minutes at a time. And I just feel like that, again, is cumulative, and it just activates that energy and lets you know it's there and does all these wonderful things for you.
And so by experiencing that and doing that in the present moment, number one, you're not focused on the future and striving to get to someplace or be something else. And number two, I think if that is something that you practice, the more often you do it, the more second nature it becomes. And so each present moment is laying that brick to be that thing, that feeling, that person that you desire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it because it works like on so many levels, right? Yeah. It works for like right now because you're feeling freaking amazing like right now in the present moment, which is awesome. And you're also laying those bricks and calling in more. And yeah.
Yeah, I love that. For sure. So we're talking about being present, and we're talking about creating that and being intentional and knowing that each choice you make right now is what you are creating for your future. So if you make that part of your awareness, but you also know, like, just like what you were talking about, maybe not so much going to a feeling, but if you have goals or wishes or desires for the future, I mean, we're only human. Not everybody's going to be content to sit and be spiritually enlightened and have that be their entire life. You know, people want to travel, people want a nice house, people want things in life that can only come from setting goals and working towards them. So the question for me is, how do you balance that? How do you balance the goals or the dreams or the desires that you have in your life with being present? I mean, I guess part of it is just being intentional, making choices that are working towards what you want. But like, how much time do you spend visioning and journaling and thinking about the future, or sitting down and setting goals, or any of those things that we tend to spend way too much time doing? So, I mean, I guess that is my question. How much time? How do you balance that? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I don't have a freaking clue. I think that the main, there's 2 points to the being present. It's one, kind of having gratitude for what exists now. So I think that is automatically going to bring about more of what you want, because you take the moment to appreciate the things that you want in the now, and then that is all part of, you know, bringing in more of that. So even by being present, you're not taking away from the fact that you're not planning. You're actually just choosing to plan this way. So look at what you've got now, and then, like, what do I want more of? How do I want to bring about more of this? And then take steps in each moment to do more of that. But then, yes, we are also planners, and we do want to have some sort of, you know, in our humanness, you're going to want to feel like you have some form of direction. So, I mean, I don't know the balance. I don't know the answer, to be honest.
I mean, my thoughts on that, I think that my thoughts on that are to be intentional with that time, maybe. So whether you're sitting down in the morning after meditation and deciding to vision at that time, or journal at that time about the things that you want more of in your life, because I don't think you can go without thinking of the future and what you're working towards, right? Because we're not all sitting on a mountaintop meditating all day long. Go ahead.
I think that you can be present and intentional by deciding that you want to spend some time journaling. If like you're feeling called to, or feeling that the need for that, you know, direction or structure or goal, or, like, you know, something that you want to set your sights on, then you can be intentional and decide that in that moment you want to spend your time trying to bring about, like, trying to get that clarity, so that you can take inspired or, like, in the moment action, because you really know what that looks like. So I think that they don't have to be like either or. Being present can involve thinking about what you want from your life, so that you are, it's like the words are like all so similar that I think I'm going like round in the circles, but yeah, that's much.
Be more focused with your attention.
Yeah.
When you are being intentional in the moment.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I got from what you just said.
Which
it
I
made
think
perfect
like,
sense.
Did it? Okay, good. Okay.
Talking in circles.
Thank you. If anyone listening is still with us, you get a gold star.
They're definitely being intentional with their focus. All that. I don't have an answer either. It won't surprise anybody to know. This is one of the things that I do go back and forth with, and find myself going back and forth with, but spirit seems to indicate that this is a battle that is more kind of made up in the mind than needs to be, and that there doesn't have to be kind of like this push pull like with this quite as much, like spirit and the human part of us. And earlier I really didn't, I maybe it came off like I was like, oh, the more evolved people are just all about the feelings and sitting on the mountaintop, and part of me does do that and like look at that, like that's kind of just a more elevated like way to look at it. Like if what we want is travel, and what we want is a beautiful home with extra rooms and a wing for the relatives or whatever to come visit, all of that is great, and we want it because it's going to make us feel a certain way, and we can feel that way right now, and we can feel that way while we're daydreaming about having all that stuff. And like however you get there doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter if you're focusing on a pile of $100 bills or a whole room full of them, or if you're focusing on vitality in every cell of your body, like whatever like wakes you up and makes you connect emotionally to that place, like that is all that matters. And whatever does it for you, then that's perfectly perfect.
So I think that I'll close with a quote from Eckhart Tolle. So he says, the power for creating a better future is contained in the present moment. You create a good future by creating a good present.
That's beautiful.
I like that.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Love you, girls.
See you later.